has brought you this event. So the purpose of Queens Alive is to actively defend and promote the dignity of human life from conception to natural death. The club exists to provide information to Queens students and the broader Kingston community about abortion, euthanasia, and other subjects relevant to the protection of life. It also exists to direct the public to various pro-life resources, such as crisis pregnancy centers. Tonight, we will be focusing on the topic of assisted dying, looking at the question, should assisted suicide and/or voluntary euthanasia be decriminalized in Canada? When our club decided to host this event, we wanted to make sure that all possible bias would be eliminated. We found two very qualified and well-matched speakers, as I'm sure you will agree after hearing their presentations, and we contacted the Queen's Debating Union regarding moderation of the debate. So with that, I will now hand things off to Michelle Polster and Julia Kirby, your moderators from the Queen's Debating Union. Thanks again for coming, and I hope you enjoy our debate.
Hi, I'm Julia Kirby.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Polster. So to help orient you as our audience, we're going to give you a bit of background information. You can't hear me.
Much better. All right, so to help orient you guys as an audience, before we begin, I'm first going to provide you a bit of background information about the issue. We're going to introduce the speakers and then give you some information about the structure of the debate and how the rest of the night is going to proceed. So a bit of introduction and information about the topic. The practice of voluntary euthanasia and assisted suicide throughout the world is a discussion that has always been controversial, but is far from new. Currently, few places have the practice legal, most notably the Netherlands and Belgium, and the states of Oregon and Washington in the United States. Assisted suicide and voluntary euthanasia are illegal across Canada. In 1993, the Rodriguez case in British Columbia reached the Supreme Court, and a decision of 5-4 denying the request for assisted suicide. It maintained that the statutes in place were necessary in order to protect vulnerable Canadians. The Carter case in British Columbia, as well as proposed legislation with the LeBlanc case in Quebec, has brought the discussion to the forefront in recent months. Ethical and practical considerations, and in turn, the decriminalization of the practice in Canada, can indeed be challenging for many to navigate. For example, under what circumstances can euthanasia be justifiable, if at all? Would permitting the practice change the face of medical care? On behalf of Queens Alive and the Queens Debating Union, we would like to thank you all for coming tonight and to take a look at these issues and other considerations. We will now take the opportunity to introduce our two speakers for the evening.
Arguing for the affirmative, we have Dr. Udo Schuklenk. Udo joined Queens as the Ontario Research Chair in Bioethics and Public Policy in 2007. He held academic appointments in Australia, England, South Africa, and Scotland prior to coming to Canada. Accordingly, his English accent sounds odd at the best of times. He still holds an honorary professorship in bioethics, health, and human rights at Witwatersrand University in South Africa. Udo has published 6 books, some of which were translated into languages such as Spanish, Polish, Portuguese, and even Korean. He also published about 160 papers in peer-reviewed journals and anthologies, only 1 or 2 of which pertain to end-of-life issues. Udo has 2 books forthcoming this year, an authored volume called 50 Great Myths About Atheism, and the 3rd edition of a popular bioethics textbook. He also edits a major international bioethics journal, Bioethics, the official publication of the International Association of Bioethics. He was invited to speak here tonight because he chaired on behalf of the Royal Society of Canada an international expert panel drafting a report on end-of-life decision-making in Canada, which was released in late 2011 and caused quite a bit of a stir. It has since been cited in a Canadian court decision and in discussion papers by at least 2 governments trying to decriminalize assisted dying. Thank you, Dr. Schuklenk, for joining us.
I wasn't clear. So you give your applause and then us.
Not a worry. Arguing the negative, we have Mr. Alex Schadenberg. Alex has been the Executive Director of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition since its founding in 1998. He is also the Chair of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition International. Alex is known for his research into issues related to euthanasia, assisted suicide, and other end-of-life issues and concerns, and has written 2 books on the subject. Toward a Culture of Life several years ago, and more recently in 2012, he released Exposing Vulnerable People to Euthanasia and Assisted Suicide. Alex's articles have been published throughout the world, and his blog, alexschadenberg.blogspot.com, has become known as a definitive source of information on the issues related to euthanasia and assisted suicide. He has publicly spoken about end-of-life issues across Canada and the United States, and also internationally, including in Scotland, Australia, and New Zealand. He has also made television appearances on numerous stations, including CBC, TVO, TV New Zealand, among others. Thank you, Mr. Schadenberg, for joining us.
Okay, I'll explain the debate format and then we'll get started with the debate. The evening will run as follows. First, each speaker will present for 20 minutes. Then they will each have the opportunity to present a rebuttal for 5 minutes. Throughout the presentation times, we invite you to write out any questions you may have on the piece of paper you've been handed. Please specify the speaker to whom the question is addressed, or if it's both speakers, then write that down. When you're finished writing out a question, pass the paper to the end of your row, and if the people at the end of the rows can hold out the questions, we're going to have club members coming along and collecting them throughout the evening. Kavish, also from the debating union, will be sifting through your questions and grouping similar ones together so we don't get repetitions, we get as many as possible. So without further ado, I'll invite Dr. Schuklenk up to begin his presentation.